it is our objective to use AI in as many business functions as we could. So we keep on experimenting with different tools that come up. AI can help with this a lot tremendously. You put in a prompt, you get the job description, and then you go through it. You edit it to make sure that it conforms to your requirement. What AI has done is it has boosted the value of people in our agency rather than diminishing it.
Husain, welcome to the Alooba Objective Hiring Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I would love to dive in straight away to everyone's favorite topic at the moment, which is AI, in particular, its impacts on hiring. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts, experience of what AI might already have contributed to hiring, either using it yourself on the business side, or maybe some impact you've seen from candidates using it during the hiring process. And then I'd love to also deep dive a little bit further on the screening stage in particular, and there a bit of a discussion there around the usage of AI in screening candidates. So to begin with, so I guess have you used AI at all in hiring so far?
Yes, well, uh, as an agency, so it is our objective to use AI in as many business functions as we could. So we keep on experimenting with different tools that come up, or the different features. We particularly use specific platforms more than others, like for example, ChatGPT. So we have been with ChatGPT for since it launched 3.5, and every new update we keep testing it for its different features, and we have automated a lot of our internal operations as well using these tools. So it's kind of still, but like what I've seen, like I think with what many of the other leaders and many of the other practitioners in the technology field must have also noticed, is that AI is not the answer to everything right now, and it still has a long way to go before it can be used as a proper business solution, like other products out there in the market which are like established, which predictably does exactly the same thing in and out hundreds of times, thousands of times, but AI is yet to be there. So in our hiring process, we have started using AI, but it's still like we take it with a lot of salt, I would say, not a pinch of salt. So the particular area in the hiring that I like using AI is to formulate job descriptions. So usually what we have seen is, and we are a very small agency, small as in lean. So we don't do like mass hiring, and the structure of the company is that it's spread remotely across the globe. So it's 100% remote, and all our work gets done through cloud, through automation. So most of the heavy lifting happens through automation and cloud. Uh, so it becomes very important for us to, when we source a candidate from the market, we don't just put in, textbook descriptions out there, or, textbook job titles, and say, we need a data analyst, we need a technical marketer, we need a data engineer, or a web developer. So we have to tailor it to be very, very specific as to this is the kind of skills that we're looking for, and they need to have and it needs to be very detailed. And the problem with that, what I'm experiencing, like not in this company, but in my previous companies as well, where I was part of the hiring process, I was part of the interview process, and I was actively doing interviews with candidates. I was actively hiring, and I think I've been supporting this recruitment function for I think more than 8 years now. in different roles, different companies. What I've seen is that the it's very difficult to come up with a job description for a particular job role. So AI can help with this a lot tremendously. You put in a prompt, you get the job description, and then you go through it, you edit it to make sure that it conforms to your requirement. You maybe elaborate on a little more topics, and then you put it out. It gives you much better results rather than putting a boilerplate job description saying, I need a data analyst and they need to have, XYZ capabilities, need to know statistics, need to know data wrangling and things like that. But those are pretty standard stuff. What do you really mean by data wrangling? What do you need as part of this particular job or as part of this particular company? Different people do different stuff. What kind of tools experience you need? So yes, AI helps that.
And does the value add that it, because the job descriptions would just take a long time to write manually, is it that it expedites it? Or is it going into more details about the different things that you need and kind of elaborating? Because I guess it doesn't know what you need until you tell it, in a sense.
Exactly. So in the beginning, I said it's not like a solution to everything. So there is, so I, there are a few school of thoughts that are developing around using AI, especially among the leaders, like the people who are not hands-on with the AI right now. One is they think that they really don't understand this technology. It's like alien to them. So it's like, what's going on? We are better with traditional stuff. So they would put a person and say, you have 1 hour to write this description, 2 hours to write the description, and go on the internet, search, prepare a Word document, and then show it to me, and I will review and sign it off. So those are the people who are like afraid and like, I don't know what is going on, and I I'm a bit overwhelmed by what is happening. Then there are other set of people who say, well, it's a silver bullet. You just tell it, give me a job description, and it spits it out. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work so both of them are wrong. The right approach is you start with a prompt. So it's like you're teaching somebody to do something. Okay, so you need to treat AI like that. So every new task that you give it, every new job description that you give it, you need to treat it as if it is the first time it is listening about this. So it's like you're explaining something to a child. The child doesn't know what it is. The child is hearing it for the first time. So what would be the reaction? The first thing would be it would make a mistake. So you need to expect that it will make a mistake. If it gives you a good enough job description, then well, you're lucky. It's great because it has that knowledge. Now, with all the large language models that are improving uh, every month, and they are sending out updates, the good thing about it is it has learned most of the stuff that the business stuff, especially that we don't need to train them. So if I give it a prompt saying, I'm looking for a data analyst to be on my company, and this will be their typical, day in the job. Like these will be the typical activities that the person will do, and I want to post it on LinkedIn, and I need a job description generated for this. So it gets an idea that okay, the platform you're targeting is LinkedIn. You need a data analyst. This will be his or her typical day like. So this way, it is much better equipped to generate the right job description for you. Still, it can make mistakes. So you need to go through it. You need to edit it. You need to add a few cultural stuff to it, which you think important for based on your company, and only then you can publish it out. But yes, it saves lots and lots of time. Like somebody who had to do research on the internet, somebody who had to actually think about it. Okay, what does a data analyst do? Had to ask around people in the department, like, okay, the person will be reporting to you directly. What do you expect that person to do? All those things are now gone. So you save hours uh, generating a job description.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there, which I wasn't really thinking about, which is a lot of the people who are writing the job descriptions aren't the hiring manager. They'd be talent people who then have to research it. Whereas I was thinking more of myself writing a job description for a role that I'm hiring. I obviously know what I need, but that's often a disconnect there in the process. So I guess for those people, then ChatGPT might help even more.
Yes, because in most of the company, the person who is writing the job description and the person actually conducting the interview and the person who is actually finalizing the process, they're not the same person.
Yes. Which is probably another conversation about some of the systemic issues in hiring and those kind of disconnects between the hiring team and the talent team. I find quite interesting, and I feel like that's the root cause of a lot of the issues of hiring. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole at the moment. If we could stick to AI for a little bit longer and think about the screening stages of hiring, like have you tried to use AI to decide which of the candidates you should interview? Have you contemplated that or had any thoughts around the screening problem?
Yes, and I would like to be a bit of a critic here. So we can see like, or we hear most of the companies nowadays use a system called ATS or Applicant Tracking System. So what happens is whenever you apply, the application goes into that system and then that system decides the filter. So it decides whether the resume should pass on to the next stage or not. And the ATS stays in the loop till much further the resume travels, like maybe all the way up to the interview call, or even after the interview call, the ATS remains active in the loop, uh, screening all the candidates from stage one or round one to round two to round three, and they keep track of the. So I think it started with somebody said, we need a database to keep a track of all the people that we interview or all the people who submit their resume, because right now they may not be a good fit, but who knows, in future we may have a requirement and we don't need to spend lots of hours again to do the work. So then somebody was smart enough to build an ATS, and now there are so many ATS in the market. The good thing about it is a good tool to prepare a database to give you uh, the candidates that are in queue, the candidates that have not been hired anywhere, or it's like an active database of, okay, 6 months back, whom we hired or who has submitted the resume. We have an opening again. Can we look at that? So we save a lot of money, we save a lot of effort trying to post that same job again on the market. The bad thing is that this thing has started to decide which resume should go ahead and which should not without human intervention. Now, the for some of the roles it could be good, like if it's a factory role, like something. When I say factory role, it's something which is like uh, detailed out to uh, the detailed out to the dot. Exactly. This is exactly what the person needs to do. Like, somebody needs to fix a bolt on a assembly line. This is exactly that person would be doing 8 hours a day. So that is like being 100% specific. This is what is needed. And this is the kind of experience we're looking for. You don't need human intervention over there. But for technology roles, and be it any technology, not just data and AI, or not just anything to do with analytics or any such thing, it is more abstract. It's more complicated. So you need a person who needs to do a lot of things, and you need a person who is good with a lot of tools. You need a person who has experiences with different processes, with different systems, with different frameworks, and the list goes on and on. So putting a system that is autonomous and just makes decisions without having any consideration or having its own logic to apply, and the human says, well, it has, you know uh, it's helping me out. It's like a myth, I would say. It's they're living in a myth. So I think for certain roles you can start with ATS, but then pretty soon you need to be very, very involved in the hiring process. You need to scan through the resume yourself because, and what I've seen many times is that people who are talented, like, people who are good with technology, they are typically not good writers. you know, like we see software documentation. We see if we ask developers to document something, we know what kind of, content they are going to spit out. So, and the people who are good with words or who are good articulating stuff are typically not the people who are technically inclined. If we get a combination, great. I mean, that's a rare breed. It's great. And if you find somebody, just blindly put them on your team because that person is going to be highly invaluable. But then, be- you know, beside the point, there's a disconnect between this. Somebody who is technically talented and who is also able to write a great resume. Something that can pass through the systems and then reach the recruiter's desk and say, well, out of thousands of the applications, these are the 10 I have filtered, and I think these are the best fit. I think it's too much to ask. So while the systems are there, while AI is there, I think and a lot of these ATS now implement AI, in some form or the other. But yeah, I think we still need a lot of human involvement while scanning the resumes.
Yeah. Um, at least in my experience of integrating in with a lot of these ATSs, like Smart Recruiters, Greenhouse, Workable, Workday, and speaking to a lot of companies, until very recently, like as in the last few months, these companies though wouldn't really use the ATS in any kind of, from what I could tell, automated way. Like they were still doing 100% manual CV screening with a human. They would maybe have application questions that would automatically reject candidates, but they would be for more like logical reasons, like do you have working rights in this country? What salary do you need? There wasn't really much, automatic selection of candidates going on. Maybe now, as of very recently, some of them have integrated into GPT and are maybe doing some CV scoring, but I haven't seen ATSs go rogue and actually start making decisions over candidates. Maybe maybe there's a one that I'm not aware of or a particular market use case, but I personally haven't seen that. I have to say.
So now I think there are courses available on the market, like on social media, that teach you how to trick the ATS to actually not reject you. Like I think I've seen something that said use AI to generate your resume so that it gets passed 100% on the ATS. So people are coming up with these hacks.
Yeah. I feel like there's some snake oil salesmen as well, unfortunately, who are selling this bullshit at some level.
Exactly, and this is actually creating a lot of issues in the entire hiring process. Like some of the like we don't do it because we know we can see it. Like we know the limitations of AI because we have been using AI for many of our business operations as well. Like we tell it, we give content to it, and we say, can you give us a better version of this? We give it a content and say, what kind of keywords do you find in this? Like typically we do it a lot with our SEO optimization work. We do a lot with content copy work. So we understand its limitation. Understanding prompts or trying to decide. But what my what I have not seen so far is how can I, so if I'm getting in a stream of resumes, let's say I get 100 resumes a day, as a recruiter, what kind of workflow optimization should I put in place using AI so that these 100 can really be brought down to a good enough 10, something like it's not excluding somebody talented out of that list, or it's those 10 that it is highlighting me to look at are really the ones that I need. So I will be saving time. I haven't seen that kind of workflow yet, but what I've seen is that the ATS will filter it out. So typically you're right, because in many applications, the questions are upfront, like whether you have rights to work in a country, do you need a visa, are you eligible to work, or do you have, like, if it's a US role, they ask you, do you have W-4 authentication and things like that. But many of the applications don't ask these questions, but they still go through the system, and the system then filters it out.
The system filters it out, or a person using the system? Unless there's been some very recent development, it is humans sitting there reading a CV and they make the rejection decision. Right? 99% of scenarios that I've personally ever seen in 5 years.
I hear you, what you're saying, because there is one person who is designated to do that in the company, scan through. But uh, if you are asked to do that day in, day out, how motivated will you be to do that? So if I'm getting a stream of 100 resumes every day, I would scan all of them maybe for a week, maybe 2 weeks. After that, I would say, well, I'm getting a lot of junk. What I'll do is I'll probably, if the ATS has the feature, I will just ask the ATS to filter things out. And then one is it's like, being frustrated. Second, it's being lazy, because once it started giving you, even 50% results, you start believing in the system and you say, okay, well, it's doing the 50% work. So might as well, I don't care, because, I'm being saved the frustration. I'm being saved the routine, the grind that I have to go through it 100 times a day, each resume. So yeah, it's kind of a very, very gray area. But if AI can come up with something to, some kind of a workflow that can filter the, filter the invalid ones out, I would say invalid ones, the ones that really, really don't apply to the job. Like on LinkedIn, I think if you go to the job listing on LinkedIn, almost for every job role, you would see 100 plus applicants. You don't see a number that is below that. Like the job is posted one day ago and you have 100 plus applicants. So now I don't think, like if I don't think everybody's in the job market looking for job, right? And then for roles like, okay, we need a CTO and it is posted on LinkedIn, and then there are 100 plus applicants in one day. I don't believe that there are 100 people looking for a CTO role in a particular country, and there are so many people that, after one day of job posting, there are 100 applicants. So what is happening is the platform is open, the job is there for anybody to apply, and everybody is just clicking on apply, apply, apply. Right? So this is a problem for the recruiter, because they keep seeing all the resumes that are not relevant for the role, and they are pressed for time. So their boss says, I need something in a week. They are scanning through all these resumes that don't make sense to them. If they have a system that gives them, I will do the filtering, you give me the criteria, I will do the filtering. That is one. Second, I give you the confidence, and this is important. I give you the confidence that whatever I'm going to filter and send to you is the one that you need. Now, AI has that promise, because through large language models, through the different learning patterns, it can understand exactly what is needed. It may make mistake once, twice in the beginning, but after it has understood the context fully, it can probably go through all the fluff, remove it, and then give you really good ones all the time. But that is the confidence that AI has to, put into the person. But till that time, like I haven't seen a system that comes out with that. So the closest one is the ATS. So I think that is why the people are inclined to just go to the ATS for filtering.
Moving on a little bit then. So what about for data professionals themselves? So data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, these kinds of characters. How do you think their skill sets are going to need to evolve over the next couple of years? Will the definition of what a data analyst does, for example, change drastically? And yeah, how are you thinking AI is going to kind of impact their role paths?
So what I think is, see, traditionally or even right now, if somebody, so one good thing is this field is open to anybody. So it doesn't need a math degree or a statistics degree right now. It doesn't need a computer science degree. Well, you need to know programming a little bit, but then those are some of the skills that you can acquire. You can learn those skills if you're willing to. So the field is quite open, like not like other fields in the technology where you need a certain degree. You just need to have a basic understanding of algorithms, basic understanding of math, if needed. Otherwise, you don't even need that. So it started with that. I think that's the traditional requirement. What is happening now is, and what will happen in the future is, the data analysts right now are thinking, well, this is the data I need to work with. This is the data systems that I need to work with. And I have a program for doing this. I have a program like, these are like my workflows. I need to know Python. I need to know uh, pandas. I need to know NumPy. And I need to be able to manipulate data in a certain way, being good with statistics. I think in future, what is going to happen is they don't need to write code, a lot of code, because AI is going to write code for them. So they need to really become creative about telling AI what to do, because more creative they become in telling AI what to do, like generating the prompt, that will be their skill, and that will be the value they will be bringing to the company. Right now, if you look at Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, if you look at ChatGPT, uh, and I've seen Copilot, I've used Copilot in many of my works previously, and I think recently as well. It is extremely good at generating code. So if I have a huge database and my boss asks me to generate a certain insight out of the data or understand a pattern in that data, before Copilot, I would be spending like, okay, 1 hour, 2 hours writing that code and then running it, testing it, and say, okay, this is what I think. And then my boss would say, okay, tell me how you did it, because I need to understand the process just to be, uh, double sure or 100% sure that we did not miss any of the requirements. With Copilot, I can run the same thing, the entire workload, in minutes, and I can come up with, fail quickly, fail fast kind of a thing, and I can come up with solution in minutes. So the data analysts of the future need to understand how to work very well with these tools, like how understand Copilot, understand its limitations, understand its capabilities, understand ChatGPT, understand its limitations and capabilities. The better they understand their limitations, the more creative they can become working with these tools. So this is definitely going to be a requirement that companies would look out for. It does not mean that they can forget about understanding statistics, understanding how algorithms operate, or understanding how to use certain framework or a library in Python. Yes, but I mean, those will be the fundamentals. Everybody needs to know that, because what if, it's like flying a plane. Nowadays, a plane just fly itself. The pilot is only needed for landing and takeoff. But what if something goes wrong midair? Then you need the pilot's experience. So it's not like you are on the train on the simulator and then you directly go flying. You still have to go through the grind, but most of the time the computer takes care of it. Your experience, your training will be useful in that, 0.00001% probability that something happens midair. So I think that is now true with all the data jobs that are there. And it is going to be increasingly a requirement that data analysts, data engineers, data scientists uh, use these tools effectively. And in their resume, in their projects, they claim that this is how we use these tools, this is our creativity, and this is the kind of result we can get. They need to be vocal about that.
I love that analogy to the pilots in the plane. That's really helpful. to paint a picture. And I mean, this advice could probably extend to any person in any role, really, like needing to really understand how to use these tools, the limitations, and also probably keeping up with the progress because they're changing all the time. So the capabilities, the strengths, the weaknesses are consistently changing. And I feel like it's always challenging when you've been doing things in a certain way for such a long time, questioning something as fundamental as, so for example, imagine you'd been a software engineer for 20 years and every time you do anything it starts with like a ticket in a backlog system with a description. You open up your code base, you have, figuring out where in the code you need to write it. You're adding some code, you're testing it locally, it gets code reviewed, it goes into dev, like it goes through this consistent workflow that you've been so used to. But there's something now fundamentally changing where it's like, no, you're not meant to be writing the code. You tell a large language model and it writes the code for you. I think it's hard to, when things as fundamental as that change, it's hard to adapt quickly. If you see what I mean?
Yes. Uh, I can share a very recent experience with you. So what happens is when somebody has been doing something in and out for many years and they know it works, you know, we are not questioning their system. Their system could be flawed. When I look at it as an outsider, the system could be flawed. I can say, I see a few improvements right up front. Why don't you do it? But the person who's actually doing it for many years, that person is comfortable. They are in their comfort zone. And it's a human tendency. If you challenge the comfort zone, the person takes it personally, you know, and they they think of you as an enemy, and they think that this person is out here to take my job, or, if I follow their advice, suddenly I'm becoming obsolete. So they get this fear and they start building this, a bit of a hate kind of a relationship with this entire process. So I can look at my pretty recent experience when there was somebody on our client team, and that person was doing things in and out consistently for many years, and this whatever process that person followed, they used to give them consistent results. And it happened that uh, that person was following the process blindly because now for many years they're trusting it. uh, I looked at it and I saw a few improvement areas. And I said, well, why don't you do this? It needs to be done in this manner. So I was using my experience, my knowledge, and giving the person the guidance. I never thought that it would be taken in a way that you are challenging my work. It's like, I actually hurt the person's ego, or, something. So the same thing happens with Copilot. Like, I'm taking example of Copilot because you mentioned software development. So imagine that the testing team logged a bug. You received the bug in the morning, and earlier you used to go through the code base, scan that particular area, and then test it out, and then whatever conditions they have put. I'm I'm not sure exactly what it is called, but there's a term that says this is how you reproduce it. So the testers usually put in those steps to reproduce. And then as a developer, you go and you exactly do all those steps to make sure that it is really being reproduced. And then you start working. So this whole thing used to take many hours. And I myself did that because I was a software developer for many years before coming into data. So it would take us days to actually fix small bugs, and then wait for the release. And I mean that's a whole different story, like when the release happens. But yeah, fixing one bug would be like from 1 hour to 1 day to 2 days. It goes on, and then you have all the history and version history and things like that. Imagine that you scratching your head thinking of the algorithm, doing mental calculations. This is what happened, this is what happened. So okay, I'm missing a condition here, I'm missing a condition there. There's a variable with a wrong value coming from somewhere. And then, or maybe, this my loop, particular loop is just, going, it's actually blocking the entire code. So something is timing out because of this particular loop. Maybe inside that loop, I'm doing something, I'm scanning the array of, objects. I'm going through a list of objects, and then Copilot. So I need to really think how I can optimize that. So if the issue is like the code is bloated and you need to optimize it, the issue is like I may spend days. With Copilot, it says, well, this is the optimized code, and it gives it in an instant. It just scans the code, gives it in an instant, and when you test it, it actually is optimized. So suddenly, what happens is you feel as a developer that you are not valued anymore. You're not needed anymore, because now the AI is telling you this is the right code. So what happened to your engineering? What happened to your academics? What happened to your experience? Everything is suddenly nullified. But I don't think that is the right way to look at the current situation. I think the right way to look at this would be that there is a web developer who has been paid X amount of salary every month and is expected to do Y work. With this AI, with this Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever you're using, if the developer who earlier used to take, say, 10 hours to complete that job can now do it in half hour or 1 hour, the company has 9 hours of buffer, 9 hours extra for this person to use somewhere else or in something different. So this is one. Maybe the company can use the same person for multiple projects. So they are actually optimizing their resource usage or optimizing the cost. This is one way of looking at the situation. Second way is the company says, I don't care what you do, it needs to be done in 10 hours. And the developer says, well, I can do it in 1 hour with Copilot, but my manager doesn't care. So fine, I have now 9 hours. What do I do with it? Either I could play a game on Xbox, PS5, or I can do my own self-development, improve myself. Maybe I can learn a new skill. Maybe I can learn something different. Maybe I can try for, a role that requires slightly more challenging areas or whatever. So you can focus on personal and professional growth. So I think the web developers should start looking at things with a different perspective rather than saying the AI that is coming out is my enemy. I take it on my ego because it can write code better than me. And I just hate AI. So I don't think that's the right approach. And for companies also, I don't think it's the right approach to say, I don't need web developers because I will just hire an intern, teach them how to use Copilot, and then, let them run.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. But yeah, you're right. That's a great reframing. And surely, if you have a tool which might soon be able to give you a 2x, a 5x, a 10x boost in productivity, that is a good news story for you. Because if you could be 10 times more productive and 10 times more valuable, you've created 10 times more value. I guess the challenge is if, as let's say a developer in this example, if they've tied up in their identity writing code and that's what they do, as opposed to producing business value or producing a product that solves problems or helping people or helping the end user, I feel like that's the problem as well. And there needs to be a reset in their minds that what they're writing is just a means to an end. The code itself, despite what some people might say, maybe isn't the valuable bit. It's the product that then solves a problem for the user that then gets revenue for the company, but ultimately pays them their salary.
Exactly. And in my hiring process, like when I am doing the interview, there are a couple of questions that I always ask, and people usually they are not prepared to answer because they never thought about it this way. So the first thing I ask is, why did you do what you do? Like why did you write that particular code, or why did you do the data analysis in a certain way? What prompted you to do it? And mostly the answer is that was a requirement. No. So the problem is people don't think. They think that, okay, they believe that my job role is my identity. They believe that my job responsibility is my identity. And I think that is the problem, because that is how traditionally the industries have been set up. When you ask somebody what do you do? I'm a data analyst. I think that thing came all the way from, I don't know, 1960s, the industrial revolution time or whatever, when people had set a factory and say everybody was given a role and said, what do you do on the assembly line? I do this. What do you do? I fix this. So it's like nobody. So that was that time, but I think it has carried on, and it has sort of, we are conditioned into believing that data analyst, data engineer, software developer, web developer, even like you have in software, web also you have front end developer, back end developer. People associate all these roles with themselves when they are telling people about what they do and who they are. So if I say, well, what so what do you do? I am. So they don't say I do data analysis. They say I am a data analyst.
Um, yes.
So I think the problem is at the core, and I am not sure exactly how we are going to solve it, but it needs to be solved now, because more and more with all these tools, I am a data analyst is not going to fly, because the tool is a better data analyst than you. You as a human, what you are doing. So I think everybody, the people who are coming out of college, maybe doing internship for the first time, or even experienced people, they need to really rethink their responses and rethink what they are doing, what they want to do, uh, very, very seriously, in a very different way. They need to just shatter the current mindset that is there, and they really need to rework the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great analysis, and you're right. We are too tied up to our jobs, which are inherently temporary anyway. People change professions, they change roles, they get promoted, they change careers completely. So it is perverse to say the phrase "I am dot 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 job," because that's surely only a limited part of who you are as a human, and we've overvalued it. Maybe you could argue overvalued our profession relative to other things in life, but
And that's a different area for discussion. uh, Maybe a different show.
perhaps, yeah. Well, what about? I'm keen to hear a bit more about your agency, and particularly how you approach hiring, and whether there's any kind of connection between your business culture and your unique approach to marketing, and whether or not that influences how you think about hiring into your company.
Okay. So basically, the growth agency, that is the name. So it's a Belgium-based digital marketing agency, and it's a complete remote uh, agency. So all of us are spread out across the world, and we are 100% remote. So like I'm working from Dubai. My colleagues, some of them are in Belgium, some of them are, I think, Indonesia. So yeah, and then we interact. So what we do is we use. So how does 100% remote company work? So many people, after, I think with COVID, people started, one good thing that COVID gave to us is to know, or for a fact, that things to do to get things done, you don't need to travel to a place, which is called a workplace. A workplace now can be anywhere. Okay, it depends on the kinds of jobs. Like if you're a doctor, you need to go to the hospital. You cannot bring the hospital into your home, or wherever, or on a beach. You need to go to the hospital, because a hospital is the infrastructure that you need to practice, and that infrastructure you cannot generate anywhere else. So there are some jobs that require you to travel to a certain place, but with that as well, what COVID has taught us, that consultation can be done online. You don't need to visit the doctor to do a consultation. It can be done online. So I think people have realized too the fact that all the jobs, some part. to a certain extent, and that extent depends on what function you're performing. Sometimes it's 100%, sometimes it's 5%, 10%, but some of them can be done remotely, some of them can be automated. So technology wise, what we believe is that if you are a digital marketing agency, if you are a software development company, if you are into design, UX design, it can be done 100% remotely. And we have been doing it for, I think, many years. The company is 10 years old. I have been with the company for last 2 years, and we are doing it really well. So we use a lot of tools to collaborate, to make sure that the work gets done, to discuss. We use a plethora of tools to help us with that. Uh, and our approach to the digital marketing is that we are data first agency, meaning that whenever we say something or whenever we put something out saying, if we tell a client to change the strategy of their branding campaign or of their uh, you know uh, any marketing campaign, we start with data. So we don't base everything on our experience. Like we think in the industry, 20% of something, that's a standard. So we say, well, you are working in a financial industry. We think, uh, you know, 5% of ROAS is that's the standard. So we would actually, we would target that. No, we don't do that. What we do is we say, we will look at the data, the historical data. We see what the trends are. We see what the patterns are. We see if you are impacted by seasonality, how much, when, and then what did you do about it? And did it have any impact? Did it have any result? Based on this, we prepare our strategy. So we do a lot of data thinking, data analysis before we come out with any strategy. So all of our decisions, all of our conversations with the clients are data backed. So we never say in our experience to the client, or we say, well, in marketing this happens. No, we don't do that because, uh, and even with the same client, we don't say last year it happened like this, so this year also it will happen, because trends are changing. We always look at trends. We always look at what has happened, what can happen, what will be the forecast looking like now based on this new variable. And that is why data is at the center of whatever we do in the agency. And we use a lot of Python to actually do the analysis uh, for almost everything, and then come up with all the numbers. And even our pitches are data driven, because we start with what has happened with this client or what has happened in the industry. When the client wants to go there, this is their objective, this is their goal. How we can bring them there, and does the data tell us? So many times we tell them this is a goal that is, a bit far-fetched, and we support it with these data points. So that is there. And with AI, what we are doing is we are trying to automate as much as we can all the routine work that earlier we needed to really wait for somebody to come back to us. And most of the improvements that we are seeing is in our SEO and content. So we are the ones that we started with AI-based marketing campaigns. So a lot of our creatives for ads are AI-based. So what happened is earlier the clients, or even the client doesn't have the resources. So we would do that. It's like we hire actors, we do a video shoot, and we say, okay, it's a 5-second ad. So we do the video shoot, we do everything. We hire a crew, and they get things done. You have the actors and things like that. But we started launching the similar quality or better quality ads just using AI videos, and it really it it got a really, really good response. We got tremendous uh, return out of it. And it has been made as a use case in one of the clients. So for the one we used, it became a use case where they wanted to show it to their entire global group, saying this is the AI generated creative versus this one that was created manually. and see the kind of impact the AI generated creative has. So now they are coming back to us with, uh, can you like help us with it? And then there are uh, other people, other institutions within Belgium who are taking interest in this and saying, how can we use AI in this kind of marketing as well? So yes, it has helped a lot. It doesn't mean that we had we had asked our designer that, you know, they no longer needed. In fact, they needed more, because now they uh, they can generate AI based creatives quite uh, quite fast, but they can also control the quality. So we need them more now, because earlier they just used to do the creative, but now they actually are more involved in the process. So what AI has done is it has boosted the value of people in our agency rather than diminishing it.
Yeah, it's a great leverage tool, isn't it? You're really getting more out of what you have. I sometimes think of AI as like, a multiplier. So if you're trying to use it for something that you know nothing about at all, multiplying 0 by 10 probably doesn't get you very far. But if you already have knowledge in that area, you have a knowledge of 5, you multiply that by 10, suddenly you've got 50. And that's, I think, one of the amazing powers of AI. One final quick question for you is, if you could ask our next guest a question, what question would that be?
Uh, Interesting. So in the same AI space,
In any space you like, and you don't even know who the guest might be. Could be anyone.
how did they bring about the data culture, or how successful they were, or were they even successful in bringing about a data and AI culture in their organization? Uh, I would like to know whether how they did it. Like for us, it was our CEO already has that mindset. So, it's not like we are cultivating it. It's not like we are a 50-year-old company. We started with traditional stuff. We have bosses who are like 50-year-old, and we have a army of 500 people working for us. No, we are like, a team of 7, 8, 9, at times, 12 individuals. But then we function lean, we function uh, very optimized. For us, uh, it is very easy to actually say this is something that we need to change, and we change it as a company culture. But so the two things help us. One is the size, second is the mindset. So the mindset is already there that we need to be experimentative, we need to be agile. So everything then comes together. But imagine that there is a traditional organization, and you want to bring data culture or the AI culture into the organization. As a leader, how would they do it? Or have they done it, and then how did they do it? What was their success rate?
A great question that we will level at the next guest on the Alooba Objective Hiring show. Well, Hussein, it's been a great conversation today about a wide variety of things, almost delving into some philosophical areas of life as well, which is interesting. So thank you so much for your thoughts today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I hope not all of the things that I've said may resonate with everybody, but even if they find something useful out of it, then I would consider it, that yes, I have brought in some value uh, to somebody.